Good evening, students. So, how are you guys? So, welcome back. Today, we will be doing the remaining portion of this chapter, chapter 1. Guys, you have understood that when a client avails services of a chartered accountant, when a client avails services of an auditor, it is known as engagement. What it is known as? Engagement. It is called as engagement. And we had read also all the engagement standards for different type of services like essays pertaining to auditing services, pertaining to review engagements, pertaining to assurance engagements, and also related services. This we had done in our last session. So guys, before an auditor accepts an engagement, what he should do, what he should try to do, what he should ascertain, should he try to ascertain certain things? Do you consider it necessary that an auditor, before accepting an engagement, he should try to ascertain some things? So we will discuss these things. Say, students, the client is new to the auditor. So should he accept the engagement? Before doing any diligence or any exercise, would it be prudent on his part? What is your opinion? So obviously it would not be prudent on his part to accept the engagement of a new client. He has to first make sure few things. So what are those things before he should accept the engagement? Now, SQC1, Standard on Quality Control 1, it requires that when a client is new to the auditor, before he accepts the engagement, he should make sure following 4 things. Now, what are those things? Number 1 is integrity of promoters, integrity of principal owners, and of key managerial persons, the persons who are key management persons who are responsible for running the company. He should ascertain whether these persons have a good record of integrity, whether they, say they can be some defaulters of banks, or they can be violators of laws. Okay, so what is integrity? You can say general market reputation. You can understand how are the people, what kind of people they are, so that the auditor comes to know that the management does not consist of dishonest persons, unscrupulous persons. If the management consists of honest persons of integrity, obviously the comfort level of auditor would increase, and definitely he would be aiming to put a greater reliance on not only on the records, but also on the control system, but also on the internal control. Now, what should be the second thing? Second thing, as per SQC1 is that the auditor should be sure that he has got the necessary resources to perform the audit. He has got necessary resources to perform the audit, to perform the engagement. Necessary resources means he has got adequate manpower, experienced persons which are required to complete that engagement. Say if it is a small firm and some big company wants to avail services of a small firm, then that firm may not have that wherewithal, that resources to complete the engagement in an effective manner. They may not be having adequate staff. Okay, so these kind of things. So this is second requirement. And what is third requirement? Third requirement is that audit firm to ensure that they can meet all the ethical requirements. That is very important. That they can meet the ethical requirements, that they would be able to carry out the audit in an independent manner, and they can meet all the ethical requirements which are there. Okay, is that clear? And fourth thing is, any points, any issues, significant matters which have arisen during past audits. So the new auditor can come to know what are the significant matters during the previous engagements and how these matters can affect their relationship between the new auditor and between the client. So is it clear to you guys? Tell me guys, is it clear to you? SQC1 4 points. These are general points but still very important. General points, but you have to remember. Fine guys. Okay, simple points. So SQC1 is standard on quality control, and we had learned in our last session that SQC1 applies to all types of engagements. It applies to all type of engagements. So the engagements, be in the nature of auditing services or be in the nature of assurance engagement or review engagements or any sort of related services engagement, SQC1 applies. So all these four things, these have to be made sure by the new auditor for a new client. Okay. Okay guys, so now we come to second issue. See guys, SA 210 standards on auditing, SA 210 states that before an auditor accepts a new engagement, there should be certain preconditions for an audit. What are those preconditions? These are also general but to be remembered for examination point of view, to be remembered. These are general points but need remembering. To be remembered, sometime question comes on this. What are the preconditions for an audit? That before an auditor accepts the engagement, what conditions should be present there? What condition should be existing there so that the auditor can accept the engagement. Now these conditions are, these things have to be checked by the auditor. He has to see whether applicable financial reporting framework, the framework in accordance with which financial statements are prepared, is acceptable. Say if it is a case of company, then no issue, the applicable FRF is prescribed under Companies Act. In other cases where FRF is not prescribed under any law, then auditor has to ensure that financial statements which are presented to him for audit, these are prepared in accordance with financial reporting framework which is acceptable to him. It means that it discloses all the necessary information which in the opinion of auditor is required, and it gives proper presentation. Okay guys, so first thing is that auditor has to see whether the financial reporting framework in accordance with which financial statements have been prepared is acceptable. Okay. And the second point, he has to make sure that management acknowledges following things: that it is responsibility of management to prepare financial statements. It is responsibility of management to prepare financial statements. Okay. Management should acknowledge it, that job of preparing financial statements, the auditor has nothing to do with it. It is the responsibility of management to prepare the financial statements in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework. Okay. And second point is, it is also the responsibility of management to devise and a sound internal control system. It is also responsibility of the management. Okay. Such a system, a control system which is commensurate with the nature and the size of the business, and it obviously it should be working. Okay. And next thing, he has to ensure that management would provide all the information and records, documents which he requires for carrying his audit, because unless and until management provides the auditor with all the information, records and documents, the auditor cannot be supposed to carry out his engagement effectively or purposefully. He will not be able to express his opinion in absence of information. Any additional information which he requires, say during the course of audit, something new, some new aspects come to the light of auditor, then he might require some additional information. So management cannot refuse कि आपने पहले तो बोला नहीं था. So any additional information during the course of audit, besides auditing, besides the accounting records and other records, the management should provide, and it should clearly acknowledge that we shall provide you with additional information if you require. Okay. And number 3 is unrestricted access to the persons within the organization, because the auditor, guys, you would understand that auditor has to seek information from different person within the organization to carry out his engagement, okay, and to express his opinion, because unless the auditor is able to seek information from different persons within the organization, he would not be able to carry out his work effectively and efficiently. So all these things are required. These are preconditions. These are all preconditions for an audit. Before an auditor accepts an engagement, all these preconditions should exist. Okay, guys, you understand that? And Hiral Parekh is saying, sir, please explain leadership responsibility. Leadership responsibility, guys, it's a very simple thing. It is there in standard on quality control that auditor has to complete his engagement by performing a qualitative work, and obviously certain some person, some engagement partner or the person who is dealing, he has to take the leadership responsibility to see how the audit is progressing. He has to monitor all the things, and he has to review the engagement from time to time, and finally he has to express his opinion, because unless and until somebody takes the leadership responsibility, how it would be known where the audit is going, and what the audit team has gathered, what kind of audit evidence they have gathered, and what kind of information is to be further asked from management. Okay, is it clear to you? And Dhanlakshmi is asking why management must provide unrestricted access. Won't this lead to misuse? No, Dhanlakshmi, this is an unfettered right of the auditor. The auditor can ask information from anybody in the management. Say he asks some information from some department which he might find useful for expressing his opinion. So you cannot stop the auditor. Now what that department gives the information to the auditor, whether and in what format it gives, whether it is satisfactory or not, that is altogether a different issue. But from the beginning, the management of the company cannot state that you cannot inquire from these persons, that you cannot go to these departments. They cannot ensure a certain sort of check on auditors' right to obtain information from the people within the organization. Okay, is it clear, guys? So we have done two things. SQC1, under SQC1 we have learned the 4 things which the auditor has to ensure before he accepts a new engagement, and we have also learned the things as per SA 210, which are necessary preconditions existing for an audit. Okay, is that clear? So now let us think. Let us see what your module says. Yes. It says the engagement partner shall be satisfied that appropriate procedures regarding acceptance and continuance of client relationships have been followed. So what are these four things? SQC1 requires firm to obtain information before accepting an engagement. Okay. So why this information is important? Because it would enable the auditor, it would enable the prospective auditor to see whether he should accept the engagement or continue the engagement, or whether he should refuse. Okay. So first point is integrity of principal owner scheme management, whether the management consists of unscrupulous persons. Okay. Say if these are persons of dubious integrity, of doubtful integrity, then auditors obviously should not accept the engagement, because because unscrupulous people might land the auditor in trouble. Number two is whether the engagement team is competent to perform the audit engagement and has the necessary capabilities, including time and resources. Now that's very important. He should ensure that he has got all the wherewithal to perform the engagement. Say if a small firm gets audit of a big company, then whether that small firm can perform the audit of such a large entity. They may not have such a qualified persons or experienced persons to handle a complex assignment. So all these things have to be considered by the auditor before he accepts the appointment. Okay. Number three is whether the firm and engagement team can comply with relevant ethical requirements. This we have already discussed, that he has to see that the audit is carried out independently and there are no threats to his independence, and he meets all the ethical requirements. Number four is significant matters that have arisen during the current or previous engagement and how these could affect their client relationship. If there are, say, some issues with some previous audits which has not been carried out by that auditor, so is the company simply changing the auditor because the previous auditor was inconvenient? So all these type of things have to be considered. Why the company wants to change the auditor? What are the reasons? Okay. Why he wants to appoint that very firm instead of the previous audit firm? So that is why there is an express provisions in Companies Act 2013 that whenever a new auditor of a company is appointed, and this provision is also in this is also codified in Code of Ethics, that whenever a new auditor is appointed, then he has to communicate with previous auditor. Otherwise it is a professional misconduct. It would be unethical on the part of the new auditor to accept an engagement without communicating with the previous auditor. Because why it is necessary? Because when he communicates with the previous auditor, then obviously he might come to know of certain reasons, whether there exists some professional reasons of accepting the assignment, of not accepting the assignment. Okay. So human resources, these are all things relating to audit firm. That audit firm should address the following personal issues. Okay. And engagement performance, it is also a very general point that as the audit progresses, the engagement partner obviously has to monitor the performance of the engagement team. Okay. And he has to see that team is working properly, and all the instructions which have been given to the audit team, and audit program which has been prepared. Audit program, guys, we would be studying in detail in chapter 2. Okay. So these are being followed. these kind of things. Monitoring is also part of it. So preconditions for an audit, this we have discussed right now. Preconditions for an audit, these are contained in Essay 210. Essay 210. Now, whether the preconditions for audit are present, the auditor shall determine whether the financial reporting framework is acceptable. And number two, the management should acknowledge that it is its responsibility to prepare financial statements. And for the internal control, the management is responsible and to provide the auditor with all the information, additional information which he may require, and unrestricted access to persons within the entity from whom the auditor determines it necessary to obtain audit evidence. Okay, guys, you would be learning in your chapter 10 on company audits that it is the right of auditor. It is the right of auditor to seek information, to obtain information and explanation from management. Okay. So what does Essay 210 state? It states that preconditions for an audit may be defined as used by the management of an acceptable FRF in the preparation of financial statements and the agreement of management to the premise on which an audit is conducted. It means that management accepts that it would prepare financial statements in accordance with applicable FRF, and it shall also acknowledge that financial responsibility of preparation of financial statements is that of management, and they would provide the auditor with all the necessary information, and they would provide access to all the persons within the organization. So this is the premise, this is the basis on which audit is conducted. Premise means assumption, basis. This is the basis on which audit is conducted. So these things are elementary things. These things are elementary things, and you have to remember, because guys, in examination conditions, what happens generally is that we fail to remember simple things. So when questions come on general things or simple things, we fail to answer them correctly, because all the technical things you would be remembering and again all the terms. But sometimes it so happens that question come on very general things. So these type of issues, these type of things, although general, but these have to be remembered by heart. What are the preconditions for an audit? As per Essay 210, it is very important. Okay. Yes, Hiral, engagement partner is responsible for conducting audit, and he would be signing obviously he would be signing the report on behalf of the firm. So he is responsible. Who is engagement partner? We have discussed this issue in previous two sessions. Engagement partner is the partner of audit firm who is responsible for overall conduct of audit. Okay. Sudhanshu Pandey, you are still stuck on FRF. FRF, I had told you in great detail on very first day. FRF means the format of presentation of financial statements. The way financial statements are to be presented, the way information is to be disclosed. Like in case of company, the financial statements are to be prepared in accordance with the requirements of Schedule 3 of Companies Act. So, Sudhanshu, I think you are joining the class for the first time. FRS you have also read in accounts also, financial reporting framework. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear to you guys? Now, guys, you have to understand, say, in case of companies, there is legal requirement to get accounts audited. There is legal requirement in case of Companies Act. In case of Companies Act, Section 139 prescribes the provisions relating to the appointment of auditor. Okay, so it may so happen, we have discussed in our very first class that an audit is not necessarily mandated under law or some regulation. That some firm which is some concern, some organization which is not required compulsorily to get its account audited, it may also get its account audited voluntarily. So in cases where an organization gets its accounts audited or appoints an auditor on a voluntary basis, then obviously it becomes a matter of contract between the two parties. So it is a matter of contract between the two parties, between that organization, between that firm and the audit firm and the chartered accountant. Okay, so that is why it is necessary that what an auditor is supposed to do, it should be reduced into writing. It should be reduced into writing to avoid any disputes. To avoid any disputes. Okay. So it is therefore, so it states that in company cases, the respective law governs the appointment of auditor and their duties. In all other cases, it is a matter of contract. Therefore, it is important both for the auditor and client. It is important for the auditor also, and it is important for the client also, that each party should be clear about the nature of engagement. It must be reduced into writing and should exactly specify the scope of work. What would be the outcome of the audit? What could be the reporting purpose of the audit, so that there is no confusion. So the auditor should make clear to the organization that his purpose, his job is to express an opinion on financial statements. His job is to obtain a reasonable assurance to ensure that financial statements are free from material misstatements, whether due to frauds or errors. But it does not provide absolute assurance, as we have been discussing in last two sessions. Okay, so guys, you have also to understand that when an auditor is to be appointed, it is usual for the client to give an offer letter. Okay, so the auditor would send acceptance letter and engagement letter, which in acceptance letter in auditing language is known as engagement letter. Now this is very important. The engagement letter is sent by the auditor to client. The auditor sends engagement letter to the client. Okay. So what should be the contents of engagement letter? Now this is also very important thing. As per SA 210, contents of engagement letter. Now say when you write some things, when you document certain things, obviously it helps in avoiding disputes, or if disputes occur, it helps in resolving disputes. So it is necessary that before the start of the engagement, before an engagement is going to be accepted, these following issues should be clearly stated in the engagement letter. Now remember, the engagement letter is sent by the auditor to client. It is not the vice versa. The client sends an offer letter, the engagement letter is sent by the auditor to client. Okay. So it contains following things. Number one is the objective and scope of audit of financial statements. So the engagement letter should clearly state at the outset that this is our scope of audit, this is our objective, that our objective is to obtain a reasonable assurance to see whether financial statements are free from material misstatements due to error, whether due to errors or frauds. Okay. And it should clearly spell out the responsibilities of auditor. It should clearly spell out the responsibilities of auditor. Now what are the responsibilities of auditor? Again same thing, that they would carry out the work in accordance with the standards on auditing. But this work cannot guarantee that there would be no material misstatements, although they would be doing all their work in accordance with standards on auditing. Okay. And their responsibility is to express an opinion on financial statements presented to them for audit. Okay. The responsibilities of management. So again, the responsibilities of management, again same things, that preparation of financial statements is responsibility of management, control systems are responsibility of management, all these type of things. And identification of FRF, applicable financial reporting framework. It means that it is pre-decided at the time of accepting the engagement. It is pre-decided that financial statements would be prepared in accordance with such and such financial reporting framework. And obviously that financial reporting framework should be acceptable to the auditor. And not the least, last point is reference to the expected form and content of report, and a statement that there may be circumstances where report may be differing from its expected form and content. Now at the time the auditor issues engagement letter, he might give an indication that he would be giving an opinion in the form of a report as required, as mandated, as suggested under essays. And however, he should also state that if some unusual circumstances come to his notice, or if some different circumstances come to his notice during the course of audit, then the form of the report might differ, its content also might change. Okay, so he should make all these basic things, all these elementary things very clear in the engagement letter itself. Now this engagement letter serves as a part of audit working papers, audit documentation. So it is very, very important. Okay guys. So is that clear? Now recurring audits. Now here we are not going to study recurring audits. We are only concerned with, in case of recurring audits, how the auditor should accept the engagement. How the auditor should accept the engagement. Now, what are recurring audits? Recurring audits means which are in which the same auditor is providing auditing services every year, year by year, say for a number of years, for 3 years, 4 years. So obviously in every year it would not be necessary for the auditor to issue a new engagement letter for each period. The auditor may decide not to send a new audit engagement letter for each period. However, if the auditor thinks that there are certain circumstances that what he wants to convey, the management is misunderstanding it, there is some confusion as regard to objective and scope of audit, then the auditor can send a new engagement letter, or there are some special terms of audit engagement which need to be brought to the light of management, or similarly there has been management of the company has changed, the ownership of the company has changed, so obviously, but the previous auditor is continuing. So in such a cases, obviously he would like to issue a new engagement letter to the new management, or there is change in some legal requirements, or the nature of business has changed. Say the entity, the organization, it was earlier into some say manufacturing activity. Now it has entered into say e-commerce activity. So obviously, and venturing into e-commerce activity has entailed a altogether different type of circumstances, different type of situations. So in such a case, the auditor might want to state clear such issues in the engagement. So he might, although the audit is of recurring nature, he might have to issue a new engagement letter. Similarly, there can be a change in reporting requirements. So in that case also, or when there is change in financial reporting framework, the auditor might want to issue a new engagement letter. Okay. So audit engagement letter is given by normally it is given in all cases, but in cases where audit is required to be performed with law, it mentions the relevant provisions that this appointment has been made in accordance with the terms of such and such law, or in case of a company, say in terms of Companies Act, because in those cases all the duties, all the responsibilities follow from the company law. Okay, so is it clear to you, Dhanlakshmi? So Amar Kumar Das is asking, sir, auditor give only reasonable assurance, then what is the use of audit? So Amar Kumar Das, you have to understand that this reasonable assurance, although the name is reasonable, but this reasonable assurance is also of very high level. It is also of very high level. It does not mean that that auditor seeks to obtain reasonable assurance, then he can skip many of the audit procedure and he can take shelter under the garb of reasonable assurance. No, it is not so. Then you are misunderstanding the whole concept. The reasonable assurance is itself assurance of a considerably high value. It shows that audit has been conducted in accordance with standards on auditing set up as prescribed by a professional body, and the audit has been conducted by a professional person, by a professional qualified person, by exercising professional care and skill, and all the work has been done diligently. We cannot say then what is the use of audit. And obviously when an auditor signs, when a chartered accountant signs, obviously it has got a value. It has got a value in the society. It has got a value among the stakeholders. The auditor cannot always remain uh, can be under the shelter of reasonable assurance. He would have to demonstrate that he has carried out audit diligently. Say if some fraud is discovered after the conduct of audit, then the auditor would be definitely asked, what is your viewpoint on this? Why you were not able to find it? Because the auditor would have to show that he has followed the adequate procedures as are required under the standards on auditing. Okay, he has done all the procedure. He has to show the documentation. Okay, it is not that simple. So, Amar Kumar Das, is that clear to you? Amar Kumar Das, is that clear to you? Please let me know. And one more, what is meant by engagement? Sri Nagalakshmi, you are asking what engagement means? Again, we have been doing this term for last two sessions. When a client wants to avail the services of an auditor, of a chartered accountant, then in auditing language we call it as engagement. That auditor is engaged by the client. Okay, then in the language of auditing we call this as engagement. Okay, so Amar Kumar Das, tell me, is the point clear to you? That is a very good question you have raised, but it should be clear to you. Yes. Yes, Amar Kumar Das, waiting for your reply so that we can move further. No mails. Now we come to this topic, limitations on scope prior to audit engagement acceptance. Now first understand the meaning of this heading. Limitations on scope. Scope we have already understood, guys. Scope of audit we have already understood. Say before an engagement is accepted, the management imposes some limitation कि आप ये नहीं कर पाओगे. Like it states that we will not show you this thing. You will not be allowed to contact these persons. So if before the engagement is accepted, the management is imposing a limitation on the scope of auditor's work. Very important. Limitation on the scope of audit work, and the auditor believes, और ऑडिटर को ऐसा लगता है कि वो लिमिटेशन होने के बाद he will not be able to give an opinion, that it will result into disclaiming an opinion, कि वो मेरे को सारी इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं देंगे, पूरा रिकॉर्ड नहीं दिखाएंगे. Then how he can express his opinion whether financial statements are free from material misstatements or not? Then the auditor should not clear terms, then the auditor shall not accept such a limited engagement. Then this type of engagement does not remain a reasonable assurance engagement. It, guys, you have to understand, it loses its character of reasonable assurance and it just becomes a limited assurance engagement. If before the acceptance of engagement, the management is imposing some limitation, then the nature of engagement changes. It does not remain a reasonable assurance engagement. It becomes a limited assurance engagement. Then the auditor should not accept such a limited audit engagement unless required by law or regulation. Unless it is required by law or regulation, he shall not accept this audit engagement, because कि आपने तो हमारा सारा ऑडिट का करेक्टर ही चेंज कर दिया. By placing a limitation, the management is trying to change the character of audit, which is prescribed under essays. Okay. So it is clearly stated here, if management imposes limitation on scope, okay, if management imposes limitation on scope and such that the auditor believes that limitation would result in what? Disclaiming an opinion. What is disclaiming? Disclaiming means not able to give. That circumstances are such that auditor is not in a position to give his opinion. He disclaims his opinion. He cannot state whether this thing is right or this is wrong. Because why? Because you have not provided him the necessary information. You have not provided him the necessary records. So without seeing the records, without having the necessary information, how the auditor is going to give his opinion? Then he would have to disclaim. If in such circumstances, if he believes that such an engagement would result into disclaimer of opinion, then he should not accept the engagement. Clearly, he should refuse. So guys, is that clear? Yes, Hiral is saying yes, it is a review. It would become review. It would become review. It would not be audit, because auditor would not be auditor is employed to employ whole host of audit procedures, and it would become a limited assurance engagement only, because by imposing limitation, the management is curtailing the scope of audit. Okay, scope of audit is very wide, and by placing such limitations, the management is diminishing the scope of audit. That is why in such a case, the auditor should not accept the engagement. Is that clear to you? Clear to you guys? Yes, Amar Das has also said it is clear to him. Ayush is asking TCWG. What is the meaning? It is mean those charged with governance. The people, the key persons who are responsible for day-to-day affairs of the day-to-day running of the affairs of the company. Okay. So in big companies, these might be different from the owners. Okay. Those charged with governance. Ayush, is that clear to you? Now we come to this subtopic, acceptance of a change in engagement. Now, previous topic was, it was that management is imposing a limitation before an auditor has accepted the engagement. Now here we will study what happens, say if the auditor has accepted the engagement. Say if the auditor has accepted the engagement and thereafter the management is asking for and thereafter management is asking for change of engagement. So an auditor who before completion of engagement is requested, now he has already accepted the engagement, audit is in progress. So audit is in progress. Now auditor before the completion of engagement, however, before it is completed, the auditor is requested to change the engagement to a level which gives a lower level of assurance. The management wants that you do not give us reasonable assurance, you give us lower level of assurance. So what should the auditor do in such circumstances? He has already accepted the engagement, the audit is in progress, but he has not given his report yet, he has not completed the engagement. So he should consider why these three factors, why the management is asking this. Okay, one is there may have been some change in circumstances, or the management might have misunderstood the nature and scope of audit, or third, again the management is imposing some restriction or limitation. Now the auditor should consider all the three reasons diligently, carefully. Okay, whether change in circumstances, whether it is justified, whether misunderstanding in nature of audit, whether it is justified, restriction on the scope of audit, he should consider all these things. He should consider all these things carefully, and if he considers that management's request is justified, management's request is reasonable, then he can change. Otherwise, he should refuse. Okay, so if the auditor is unable to agree to a change in the terms of audit, engagement is not permitted by management to continue the original audit engagement, the auditor shall withdraw from audit engagement where possible and determine if this is to be reported to some regulatory authority or to any other person, to regulatory authority or any other person. So guys, you have to understand that there are two things, there are these two concepts. One concept is that management is trying to impose a limitation before an audit engagement is accepted. Then in such a case, it is required for the auditor that if the management is imposing a limitation before the acceptance of audit and the auditor believes that such an engagement would result in him disclaiming an opinion, would result in such circumstances that he would not be able to give his opinion, then he should withdraw from, he shall not accept such limited engagement unless required by law or regulation. Unless it is permitted by law, he shall not accept such an engagement. Okay, is that clear? And second situation is acceptance of change in engagement. It means that auditor has accepted the engagement, but the engagement is still not complete. Auditor has performed some procedures, but he has not signed the report. The work is under progress. and he has not given his opinion, he has not completed his engagement, but the management wants to reduce the scope of audit from a reasonable assurance level to a lower level of assurance. So this could be because of three things. There could be some change in circumstances, or the management might have confused with the original scope of audit. They might have misunderstood it, or they might be wanting to impose a limitation restriction on the scope of audit now during midterm, during the term of engagement, during the period when audit is continuing. Okay, so the auditor should, what the auditor should do, the auditor would consider carefully the reasons given for the request. Okay, he should carefully analyze the reason. He should ask for the reasons. He should ask for the reasons. Dhanlakshmi is asking, what are the what is the meaning of change in circumstances? Change in circumstances, Dhanlakshmi, this is a very wide ranging term. Like there might be some industry that changes, the environment might have changed, the business model might have changed, or the business model might have flopped, these kind of things. Okay, so if the auditor concludes that there is reasonable justification, now auditor has to arrive at his own decision. The auditor would have to arrive at his own decision. He has to see that whether there is a reasonable justification to change the engagement, then the report would be issued for revised engagement. And to avoid confusion, he would not refer to the original engagement. To avoid confusion, he would not refer to the original engagement. And it is also clear that the auditor should not agree to change of engagement when there is no reasonable justification. However, if there is no reasonable justification, if the management is not forthcoming, they are just making excuses, then the auditor should not agree to a change of engagement. If the auditor is unable to agree to the terms of audit engagement, or is not permitted by the management to continue the original audit engagement, or the auditor finds that management is just making excuses, it is not giving proper justification, or such circumstances, there is no change in circumstances, such circumstances do not exist as these are being made out by the management, then the auditor, what is the option available to him? He should withdraw from the audit engagement. He should withdraw from the audit engagement where possible under applicable law. If law permits him, if law permits the auditor to leave the engagement mid-course, then he should withdraw from the audit engagement. And also an important responsibility is cast upon the auditor, that he should report the circumstances to the parties, like to the owners, or to the regulatory authorities, or might be to the regulatory authorities of government, or to whatever authorities. Okay, so is that clear? Clear, guys? So is that clear? So change in engagement and change in engagement and change in terms of engagement, both these terms are being used interchangeably. Now we had left out a topic, that is it is also a very simple subtopic, but anyway we have to do because it is in your module. So this is the relationship of auditing with other disciplines. Relationship of auditing with other disciplines, like auditing and accounting. Now relation this is too general. Now this by you have understood that if a person doesn't have the knowledge of accounting, then how he can perform an audit? Because the accounting records, accounting principles, accounting standards, these all form the basic bedrock, the basic knowledge of which is required of an auditor, from an auditor to carry out a meaningful, effective audit in a professional way. So obviously, accounting and auditing are very closely related. Accounting and auditing are very closely related. There is no two opinion about it. Audit and law. This is also very simple. There exists a relationship between auditing and law. How? Because auditor has to be well conversant with various laws. Like if an auditor doesn't have knowledge about Companies Act, then it would land him in trouble while framing his audit report. Similarly, he has to have a good knowledge of Income Tax Act. Similarly, he needs to have a knowledge of indirect tax laws. So the knowledge of taxation laws and other mercantile laws and also corporate laws is necessary for an auditor, because unless he is well conversant with the provisions, he would not be able to perform his work effectively. Okay. Amar Kumar Das is asking, is it possible for an auditor to give his report negatively for a company? Yes, Amar, this is not possible. This is happening. This happens in many cases. The auditors give their qualified reports. It is not so that the auditors are not giving qualified reports. The auditors are giving qualified reports. The auditors in practice give qualified reports. They give qualified reports stating, pointing out many things. It is not a possibility, it is a reality. And next is auditing and economics. So obviously, like uh, audit, like in case of a company, in case of an organization, the auditor is concerned with micro things such as pricing, costing, demand, all these kind of things. He considers whether the concern would remain a going concern or not. So knowledge of all these economic issues and also government policies, like fiscal policies, and all these things are which fall in the domain of auditing. The auditor has to have a knowledge of all this to understand about macroeconomic environment, and also to understand the microeconomic issues which are affecting the firm. Although microeconomic issues may be important for an auditor, because he is concerned with the accounting records of a particular organization, of a particular company. But even then, macroeconomic issues are also important, because it helps the auditor to understand macroeconomic environment. Okay. And next is auditing and behavioral science. Auditing and behavioral science. Now, guys, you have to understand that auditor, during the course of his engagement, during the course of his audit, he has to interact with a lot of persons. he has to seek information. We have learned that he has to be tactful. जैसे कहते हैं बातों बातों में पूछ लेना. He should ask the questions. He should dig out the information during talks, during informal talks. So therefore he should be good at understanding behavior of other persons. He should be good at understanding psychology of other persons. Okay, so we say that auditing is definitely related with the science of behavior. That auditor should be able to understand the people's minds, the minds of other persons, how their psychology is working. Say when you go to a bank audit, the manager would say, sir हमारे यहाँ सारे accounts ठीक है. So obviously then you should become alert. Why he is saying so? Why he is saying so? हमारे यहाँ सारे accounts ठीक है. Let me check first. Why he is giving such a statement? So these kind of little things which come with experience, okay. So therefore auditing is concerned, the auditing is related to behavioral science also. Yes, Dhanlakshmi, the economic, you are saying that auditor is concerned with the financial information, then how economics is important to him? Yes, but he should know about the general things. Now, what is the fiscal policy of the government, how budget is presented, because all these things are then affecting taxation laws. So and in turn to the organization, to the company. So obviously economics and auditing are also related in some way. Okay. Next is auditing and statistics and mathematics. Obviously guys, you would be learning that auditor does not carry out 100% checks. He makes his samples. Now when he makes samples, he does it in a way which is acceptable in statistics. Okay, so he makes use of statistically sound and valid samples. So therefore there is a relationship between auditing and statistics also, and mathematics. Obviously for performing many procedures, basic elementary knowledge of mathematics is necessary. So obviously there is a relationship between auditing and the statistics and mathematics. Auditing and data processing. So data processing, obviously these days all the accounting records and all the accounts are on specialized softwares. So obviously if the auditor is well versed with data processing, then it would help him in analyzing better way and in conducting the audit in an effective way, and the quality of his audit would also improve. Okay. Auditing and financial management and auditing and production. So again same things. Financial management deals with how an entity is financed. Okay, whether its capital structure contains more equity or debt, what are the financing avenues, okay, open. So all these things somehow affect the cash flows of the company, and all these aspects like capital budgeting, ratio analysis, all these things are related in financial management, and these are helpful in auditing also. Like while doing tax audit under Income Tax Act, you have to calculate few ratios while giving report. So all these things the auditor should know. Okay. Auditing and production, again guys, unless we know about the business of the entity, If we are going to start the audit of the company, we do not know about the business of the company, what the company is producing, what is its process, what is the final product, what kinds of inputs, what kinds of raw material it is purchasing, and what is the process, where could be the leakages. Unless we understand these things, the whole exercise of auditing would be futile. So auditing and production are also definitely related. Okay. Okay, guys. So is that clear to you? Clear, guys, or any issues remain? Tell me, guys. Tell me, guys. So, guys, at this stage, we'll be taking a short break of 5 minutes, and after that, we will be doing many assignments. Okay. So break for 5 minutes. Yeah. Welcome back, guys. So, are you ready for MCQs? I would be sharing screen with you. Is the screen visible to you guys clearly? Yes, guys, you are able to see the screen. Yes, guys, question number 1 is, as per essay 210, preconditions for an audit do not include which of the following? The question says do not include. So while doing MCQs, guys, please try to read the statement carefully. Whether it asks you the statement is appropriate, correct, wrong, whether not is included or not. So what should be the answer? Preconditions of an audit do not include which of the following? 4 options are there. Acceptability of FRF, responsibility of management regarding preparation of financial statements, making records available to the auditor, and integrity of key management personnel. Now, which is not the preconditions of an audit, which as per essay 210, we have just read the preconditions existing for an audit before an auditor accepts the engagement. Now, which of these 4 things is not the precondition? Yes, only 2-3 mails till now. Yes, guys, the answer to this is D. This is not the precondition. Say as per essay 210, we had read that preconditions include that the FRF is acceptable to the auditor and management should accept the responsibility of preparation of accounts and of control system. Okay, and it shall also make available all the records to the auditor, and it shall also grant unrestricted access to the auditor in respect of persons of the entity, of the persons of the organization. Integrity of the key management personnel is the point which the auditor should consider before accepting a new audit engagement as per SQC1. As per SQC1, it is not a precondition for audit, but when an auditor is going to accept engagement from a new client, then he should consider the integrity of the key management personnel. This is requirement given in SQC1. Okay, so many Dhanlakshmi, you are writing B. Why it is so? Why it is so? This is the main precondition for an audit, that the management should accept its responsibility regarding preparation of financial statements. This is the basic premise on which audit is conducted. That is what we have studied just now. How you are saying it is B? B is completely wrong. B is completely wrong. So the answer is D. D is not correct option. Okay. Is that clear? Is that clear to you guys? Ishu Chaudhary is ask also stating B. Yeah, why students, why you are writing B? ऑडिट इसी आधार पर होता है कि मैनेजमेंट एक्सेप्ट करे कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट बनाने की जिम्मेवारी उसकी है, और जिस फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क में वो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स बनाएगी, उसका वो एक्सेप्टेबल ऑडिटर को होना चाहिए। इज दैट क्लियर? कंट्रोल सिस्टम की भी जिम्मेवारी मैनेजमेंट की है, and the management shall provide all the records to the auditor, and it shall also provide unrestricted access to all the persons. So that is the assumption, that is the premise on the basis of which an audit is conducted. Okay, तो इसमें आप स्टूडेंट्स बी कैसे लिख रहे हो? आई फेल टू अंडरस्टैंड। Hope question number 1 is clear to you guys. Now we come to question number 2. An auditor signs a false audit report knowingly. Which of the following fundamental principles of professional ethics is violated in such a case? Objectivity, integrity, professional competence and due care, and professional behavior. Now, during the second lecture, we had studied all these fundamental principles of ethics. These are 4 out of 5 fundamental principles of ethics as per ISBA code. So when an auditor signs a false report, he knows that report is false, but he signs it knowingly. Then which of the following fundamental principles of professional ethics is violated? Is it integrity? Is it objectivity? Is it professional behavior? Or is it a reflection of on his professional competence? What it is? Question number 2. Question number 2. Yes, some mails have come. Yes, the answer is B, integrity. So guys, many of you are writing option A, objectivity. Why it is so? Objectivity, I had made you understood that objectivity means that auditor's opinion is free from bias, undue influence, or conflict of interest. He takes his decision on objective facts. He is not influenced. While integrity means that he has to be honest, and he shall not sign a statement, a report which he knowingly believes to be false, and he should not omit information which could mislead somebody. Okay, so this is integrity. So again, students, I would try to impress upon you that your work does not stop here upon just listening the live coaching class. In fact, your work begins after you have listened to this lecture, so that when you listen to the lecture, you have understood it broadly. So now it is the time for you to study from your module and to remember the key concepts clearly. You try to again remember the concepts clearly, the terms, and try to correlate one term with another term. What is the difference between these two? What is the difference between integrity and objectivity? You try to remember in your mind. Then only you would be able to answer the questions in exam correctly. Otherwise सिर्फ एक बार सुनने से नहीं होगा. Please note students, एक बार सुनने से नहीं होगा. You have to study from the module. Okay. Now we come to question 3. What does question 3 states? Question 3 states that Companies Act 2013 contains provision regarding rotation of auditor for certain class of companies. Now, in such a case, which threats to auditors' independence have been addressed? Now, Companies Act 2013, in Companies Act 2013, there is a provision under section 139, subsection 2, regarding rotation of auditors for certain kind of companies. That auditor shall be rotated after a certain number of years, say 5 years. Then, when law has made such a provision, then what kind of threats are being addressed? अगर लॉ ऐसा नहीं करता तो कौन सी ऑडिटर की थ्रेट होती इंडिपेंडेंस को? इन चार में से एडवोकेसी, सेल्फ रिव्यू, फैमिलियरिटी एंड सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट. Which is the correct answer? This also I told you while doing topic on threats to independence, and it is also there in your material. Question number 3. Yes, this you have mostly answered correctly. Question number 3. So when you are writing your answer, do write question number. Now, Mehman Rafiq bhai, you are writing only option without question number. So I would not be able to see whether you have answered it correctly, you have understood it or not. So answer to question number 3 is familiarity threat. Option is C, familiarity threat, because by incorporating such a provision, the law has ensured that the auditor does not become too familiar with the company. Okay, so this seeks to address familiarity threats. Okay, so sorry, this seeks to address familiarity threats. Now, number 4. A chartered accountant carries out certain agreed upon procedures regarding verification of debtors only as required by management and issues a report. So which of the following statements are true in this regard? Now understand the question. First, understand the question. Question says the management has asked the CA to perform certain agreed upon procedures फॉर वेरिफिकेशन ऑफ डेटर्स कि भाई आप सिर्फ डेटर्स को वेरीफाई हमारे कर दो उसके लिए, एंड और उसके लिए एक रिपोर्ट भी इशू कीजिए. सो विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट इज ट्रू? सो व्हाट इज दिस काइंड ऑफ engagement and what kind of standards are relevant? The question asks you to say whether essays are relevant, whether standards on review engagements are relevant, whether no standards are applicable, whether standards on related services are applicable. Now, what kind of service is this? Only that kind of standards would apply. Question number 4. Yes. Question number 4, students. A chartered accountant carries out certain agreed upon procedures regarding verification of debtors only as required by management and issues a report. Which of the following statements is true in this regard? Yes, substantial number of students have answered it correctly, but some are also answering it wrongly. So the correct option is D, standards on related services. It is a related service engagement, guys. It is a related service engagement. What many are writing is option B. This is wrong. review engagement is not related to one aspect of financial statements. It reviews the financial statements as a whole. It is not related to one aspect. Although it does not give same level of assurance, it is a limited assurance engagement. It does not give same level of assurance, but it does not deal with one segment. When an auditor provides services relating to performance of certain agreed upon procedures, relating to some element, relating to some segment of financial statements, then it is called as related services. And when it is related services, obviously standards on related services would apply. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear? Is that clear to all of you guys? Is that clear to all of you guys who have written B? Himanshu Gupta is saying, sir, sorry, typo. Answer is D. Himanshu, you would not be getting any leeway in the exams. कई बार ऐसा होता है कि आप सोचते कुछ हो, मार्क कुछ और हो जाता है. This you have also to make sure. आपके दिमाग में लगता है कि आपने डी मार्क किया, लेकिन एक्चुअल में ओएमआर शीट में हमने बी मार्क कर दिया. So these things also, marking these little things, you have to ensure, you have to take care, guys. Okay. Now we come to question number 5. Which of the following statements is inappropriate? Inappropriate means which is not appropriate, wrong. So 4 statements are given relating to investigation and audit. 4 statements are given relating to investigation and audit. You have to tell which of the following statements is incorrect, which of the following statements is inappropriate. Please let me know. Yes, guys. Which of the following statements is inappropriate? Just 2 males, Meghna Sharma and Prabhas Jain. Which of the following statements is inappropriate? Statement 1 is investigation is carried out with a special purpose. Second is objective of audit is to enable auditor to express an opinion. Third is investigation presupposes some wrongdoing whereas audit doesn't. And D is audit presupposes some wrongdoing whereas investigation doesn't. Now which statement is inappropriate? Which statement is incorrect? Now D is incorrect. We had already read that audit does not presuppose any wrongdoing. Investigation presupposes. Say when some wrongdoing has been suspected, so investigation proceeds with the notion that some wrongdoing is there, but the auditor does not proceed with the notion that there is some wrongdoing. The purpose of audit, the objective of audit is to express an opinion on the financial statement, to obtain reasonable assurance, to give opinion that whether financial statements are free from material misstatements due to errors or frauds. So audit does not presupposes wrongdoing, whereas investigation does. So C statement is correct, D is wrong. Here it is written audit presupposes some wrongdoing. So few people are also writing B is incorrect. How B is incorrect? This is the basic objective of audit. The basic objective of audit is to enable the auditor to express an opinion. Okay. Is that clear to you guys? So now we go to second set of questions. Yeah, many students have answered question number 5 and most of you have answered correctly. Shivangini Singh, Tisha Jain and host of others. Now I am sharing with you second set of questions. Yes, question number 1 guys. Which of the following statements is not correct regarding objectives of an auditor in conducting an audit of financial statements? You have to tell which is not correct. Again guys, do not rush. I'll tell you, do not rush. Please read the question and options carefully. सबसे ज्यादा गलती आसान क्वेश्चन में होती है पेपर में. सबसे ज्यादा गलती आसान क्वेश्चन में होती है. So which of the following statements is not correct regarding objectives of an auditor in conducting an audit of financial statements? Read all the options carefully. आपको चारों ऑप्शन ठीक लगेंगी लेकिन ध्यान से देखेंगे तो आपको समझ आ जाएगा कौन सी ठीक है कौन सी गलत है. क्वेश्चन नंबर 1. Yes, now you are able to see the screen guys. Is it large enough? Question number 1. Yes guys, very few mails. Only 2-3 students have given the answer. Question number 1. Which of the following statements is not correct regarding objectives of an auditor in conducting an audit of financial statements? Yes. So the correct is option is A. Because it states that auditor has to obtain reasonable assurance that financial statements are free from each and every. So this word is wrong. The auditor does not ensure that financial statements are free from each and every misstatement. He also ensures that financial statements are free from material misstatements, significant misstatements, okay, which could influence the decisions of users. Okay. So one guy has written B. How you have written B? The auditor has to report on financial statements. Audit, obviously, it is part of auditor's duty to report on the financial statements. He gives a report and expresses opinion. So here the key word was each and every. Okay, not every little mistake, not every little misstatement. Only material misstatements which distort the whole picture, which distort the whole picture of the financial statements. Okay. Jaspreet Kaur has answered it correctly and has also given the reason, correct reason also. Well done, Jaspreet. Now Akash Neil has also is saying, sir, 1C is answer is C of question number 1. How it is? How, Akash? Obviously, the auditor has to communicate his report in light of his findings. He gives his report and he provides it. He communicates it to the management, to the appointing authority. Okay. So how C is incorrect? Now question number 2. Question number 2. Which of the following does not fall in scope of audit? Here the question asks you to state which of the following things, 4 things out of these 4 things, one does not fall in the scope of audit in case of a company manufacturing products with a continuous process machinery. So continuous process machinery means where input of one, output of one process is input of another. Okay, so the process goes on. So which of the following does not fall in the scope of audit in case of a manufacturing company? 4 options are given. You have to state what is the right answer. All 3 options fall within the scope, 1 does not fall in the scope. What is the answer? What is the answer? Please drop your mail, guys. Question number 2. Yes, few mails. Hitesh Jain, Tanya, Ishu Chaudhary, Shubham Mishra, Pooja. Yes, what about others? Yes, guys. Question number 2. Which of the following does not fall in the scope of audit in case of a company manufacturing products with continuous process machinery? Yes, students. Now we will take the options one by one. First is making a study of internal controls. Now whether it falls within the scope of audit, we have studied, yes, internal control falls. The auditors studies the internal control of organization to evaluate whether he should rely upon those controls or not. Manner of classifying financial information, yes. How the financial information has been classified, whether distinction has been made in capital and revenue category. Okay, assessing application of accounting policy, yes, definitely. What are the accounting policies followed by management and how these are being applied? This is part of scope of audit. Auditor has to check it, verify it. Now D, this is the wrong option. Making judgment about physical condition of continuous process machinery. Now उस machinery की condition कैसी है? This is not the job of an auditor. It is the job of an expert, of an engineer. So it does not fall within the scope of audit. So answer is D. Okay. So Riddhi Agarwal, you are writing C. How, Riddhi, you are writing C? Whether the accounting policies applied by management, these are correct or not, these have been applied properly or not, this falls within the scope of audit. The auditor has to assess the application of accounting policies. It is only then he can form his opinion. Question number 3. Now question number 3. There are two statements given relating to meaning of assertions. Now statement 1 states assertions are representations by management which are present in financial statements. Statement 2 is assertions have to be necessarily explicit. Now 4 options are given, jumbled up. You have to say which option is correct and which option is correct. Question number 3. Yes. Question number 3. Yes, guys, fairly simple question relating to assertions. Relating to assertions, we had studied it in first class, in first lecture. Assertions. Yes, Prabhas, I have already uploaded one assignment. These are also practice questions. Question number 3. Yes. Yes, I think you have fairly well understood the meaning of assertion. So the A option is correct. Assertions are representations by management which are embodied in financial statements, which are present in financial statements, and these need not to be necessarily explicit. These can be implied also. These can be understood from what is written. Inferences can be drawn from what is stated expressly. So these can be implicit also. Okay, so the assertions need not be explicit always. Inferences can be drawn from explicit statements. So that is why we say that assertions need not be explicit. The assertion may be explicit or otherwise. Okay, so third option is A. A option is correct. And few substantial number of you have answered it correctly. But why Bharat and Jaspreet, you are why Bharat and Jasbir, you are writing B? Assertions need not to be necessarily explicit. Assertions need not to be necessarily explicit. Yes, Prabhas, you are writing, sir. You have not uploaded this set of questions. Yes, Prabhas. So this was not uploaded. If you require, I can upload it also in the notes section. These are practice questions. Number 4. Which of the following cannot be regarded as one of the reasons of inherent limitations of audit? So we had studied what are the reasons for inherent limitations of audit. We had studied that audit risk cannot be reduced to 0 because of number of reasons. The audit is not always foolproof. There can be a risk of failure of audit. We had studied all these things. Now, which of the following cannot be reason? 3 are the reasons and 1 is not the reason behind the inherent limitations of an audit. Question number 4. Yes, Jaspreet, if you have answered question A to question number 3, it is correct because you started your answer from BZ because, so I misunderstood it for B. Okay. Which of the following cannot be regarded as one of the reasons of inherent limitations of audit? Question number 4. Yes, only 3 males: Himanshu Gupta, Bharat, Pooja. कौन सा रीजन नहीं है इनहेरेंट लिमिटेशंस ऑफ ऑडिट का? कौन सा रीजन नहीं कहा जा सकता गाइस? slightly tricky question, but not difficult. Slightly tricky question, but not difficult. Guys, I think you have not completely absorbed the concept of inherent limitations of audit, because still good number of you are giving wrong answer. Now we had understood that there are inherent limitations of audit. Audit risk cannot be reduced to zero because there are so many things, because the management has to make judgment in the financial statements. So that process of judgment might not be appropriate. So it leads to limitation of audit, and there can be a possibility of fraud be conducted by higher management, by senior management personnel. So they might have laid down a carefully laid out scheme of fraud. So the auditor might not be able to dig out this, or there might be some related party transaction and auditor does not know them. So all the first 3 points A, B, C lead to inherent limitations of audit. That is why there are limitations of audit. That is why the auditor does not give does not seek absolute assurance. That is why the auditor seeks reasonable assurance. Okay. So D point, difficulty and cost involved in performing audit procedures. अगर कोई ऑडिट प्रोसीजर ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट है, ऑडिटर कैन नॉट टेक शेल्टर दैट दिस प्रोसीजर वाज डिफिकल्ट और दिस वाज कॉस्टली, सो आई डिड नॉट परफॉर्म इट. नो, दिस इज नॉट एन एक्सक्यूज. ही कैन नॉट टेक दिस एक्सक्यूज. ओके, सो आंसर इज ऑप्शन नंबर डी. सो आंसर इज ऑप्शन नंबर डी. So this question, many of you have not answered correctly, guys. Now this Jaspreet is asking, sir, I think for 4th question B is the answer. Why, Jaspreet? Why you are thinking so? अगर फ्रॉड सीनियर मैनेजमेंट लोगों ने किया है तो वो ऐसा काम करेंगे कि ऑडिटर को पता ही ना चले, क्योंकि ऑडिटर का काम प्राइमरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फ्रॉड ढूंढना नहीं है. उसका काम, ऑडिटर का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट पे ओपिनियन देना है. अगर ड्यूरिंग द कोर्स ऑफ वर्क when he is performing audit procedures, if something comes to his notice, then he is definitely liable to report it. But he does not start his work with preconceived notion that fraud is there. Although he performs his work with professional skepticism, he remains alert to the situation involving fraud, but he does not presuppose that fraud is there. So when fraud is conducted by the senior management personnel, they would do it in a very planned way. So auditor, because auditor relies upon the documents, so he might not come to know about the fraud. The senior management personnel might themselves mislead the auditor. Okay, so option B is obviously one of the limitations of an audit, inherent limitations of an audit. You have understood now why option D is the correct answer, Jaspreet? Yes, Bharat. If the cost is greater than the remuneration, this auditor have to decide before accepting the assignment. That is what we had just read today, that under SQC 1, under standard of quality control 1, the auditor, before accepting the engagement, he has to see whether he has got the necessary resources to complete such an engagement. Resources include the not only the experience, but also how he would conduct the audit. Okay, is that clear to you? Dhanlakshmi, what you are asking is not clear to me. Is it possible to give judgment in preparation of financial statements? Now, what I presume you are asking is that while preparing financial statements, management makes certain judgments, because there might be certain issues, certain provisions have to be made, or certain other issues regarding which management makes a subjective judgment, and this information is accordingly captured in the account books and consequently in financial statements. Okay, now we will come to question number 5. Which of the following is not true about auditing? There are 5 statements. You have to tell not true. 3 स्टेटमेंट सही है ऑडिटिंग के बारे में, 1 स्टेटमेंट गलत है. बताइए कौन सी है वो? ए, बी, सी और डी. फेयरली सिंपल क्वेश्चन. Here I would like to tell you that the term internal auditor, internal audit, you would be studying in chapter 4 on risk assessment and internal control. You can assume that an auditor appointed under law in case of a company who gives opinion on the financial statements is external auditor, statutory auditor, and a person who is internal auditor, he may be an employee of the company and he renders internal auditing services. He does not give an opinion. Okay, so now you answer. Now you answer 5th. What is the answer to 5th? 3 males. Yes, Harshita, your answer was correct. It is not possible for me to take every name. Question number 5, which statement is incorrect, which is not true about auditing? Which is not true about auditing? Yes, only 2-3 males. Sumit, Hiral, Janisha. Yes, now this is fair. This was fairly simple. You have answered it correctly. Human behavior, knowledge of human behavior, just discussed before, is essential. There is no distinction between external auditor and internal auditor. It is useful both for internal as well as external auditor. For auditor appointed under law, and also useful for internal auditor. Okay, so 5A is the option. What about others? Only 5, 6 males. Yes, should we move to question 6? Yes, guys. Yes, almost I think all of you are answering it correctly. 5A. Only one student has answered C. Why you have answered C? This statement is true. The question is asking, it is not true. This is true. Auditing is related to examination of financial information. Hence, knowledge of behavior is useful for an auditor appointed under statute as well as for internal auditor. It is true. The question is asking which statement is not true. So, statement A is not true. Is that clear to you? Is that clear to you, Ayush? That question is asking which statement is not true, whereas you are stating this statement is true. So that is why I request you students to study the statements correctly, to study the MCQs correctly. Now question number 6. ISBA code establishes integrity as one of the fundamental principles. तो ये कह रहा है कि उसमें से इंटीग्रिटी में क्या नहीं आता, विच डज नॉट फॉल विद इन द स्कोप ऑफ इंटीग्रिटी. इन 4 में से विच थिंग डजंट फॉल विद इन द स्कोप ऑफ इंटीग्रिटी? यस, टेल मी गाइस. Which thing does not fall within the scope of integrity? A, B, C or D? I had just discussed the definition of integrity, the meaning of integrity to you. In another question, we had just discussed it. Question number 6. Question number 6. ISBA code says that integrity is the one of the fundamental principles of professional ethics relevant to the auditor. Which of the following doesn't fall within the scope of integrity? Which of the following doesn't fall within the scope of integrity? One thing doesn't fall. Yes, answer is C. Integrity, we had understood that integrity is being straightforward and honest in professional relationship and fair dealing in professional relationship and not to do any false reporting, but not bringing disrepute to profession as a whole. This falls under the professional behavior, the 5th fundamental principle of professional ethics. Okay, so the answer is C. The answer is C. Now we go to question number 7. Davesh Jagnesh, you are writing B. How you are writing B? Not doing false reporting, definitely false. It is the very meaning of integrity. So therefore, it means that you have not understood the meaning of integrity. Number 7. Now fairly simple one. The term engagement standards referred to. Engagement standards referred to which kind of standards? Question number 7. The term engagement standards refer to which kind of standards? एंगेजमेंट स्टैंडर्ड का क्या मतलब है? we had done it in fair detail in our second class on Saturday. What is the meaning of engagement standards? Question number 7. Yes guys, question number 7. What is the meaning of term engagement standards? Yes, no mail till now guys. Yes. Now Hitaben Shah is asking how to ask question in comment box. You can send Mrs. Shah only mails. There is no other way. You can drop your mails. The term engagement standards refer to what? So this also almost all of you have answered correctly. So engagement standards we had studied that these refer to all the 4 kinds of standards. These refer to standards on auditing, standards on review engagement, standards on assurance engagement, and standards on related services. And Rajinder said, how you are writing option A? It contains only 3 type of standards, whereas correct option is option B. Okay. So that is why guys I am stressing upon you the need for self study. So after listening to this lecture, you have to absorb the whole things in your mind. Say chapter 1, this chapter requires at least 2 days of study so that you can absorb all the things in your mind. Okay. सिर्फ लेक्चर देने से ऑडिटिंग में नंबर नहीं आएंगे. एंड गाइस many students are failing in this subject, as you might be knowing. And 8th question you can skip guys, it is a repeat question, you can skip. Answer is familiarity threats, we had already done it. Yes. Number 9, consider the following situations. In which of the following situations independence of auditor is not under threat? Now 4 cases are there. In 3 cases independence of auditor is under threat. You have to state the case where independence is not under threat. Not, mark the word not, is not under threat. Is not under the threat. Yes, 4 options are there. Question number 9. Consider the following situations. In which of the following situations independence of auditor is not under threat? Question number 9, slightly tricky question. Question number 9. Yes, few mails have come. Now here guys, auditor deals with the of audited company and becomes advocate in third party disputes. This we have understood as advocacy threat. Advocacy threat. So it is a threat. The auditor is openly championing the cause of the company. So it is an advocacy threat. Auditor accepts hospitality and his family from the audited company, free tour packages for himself and his family. It is also a threat. Auditor has provided bookkeeping services. So bookkeeping services, these he cannot provide as per Companies Act, because it is also a, when he is providing bookkeeping services, then he has already performed his work. So he is preparing the books, how he can audit the books? So it is also a threat. So C option is correct. It is not a threat. Auditor accepts appointment as auditor of a company in which his college friend is one of directors. या मेरे साथ कोई 5 साल पहले 10 साल पहले फ्रेंड था, वो डायरेक्टर बन गया किसी कंपनी में, तो हाउ माय इंडिपेंडेंस इज अंडर थ्रेट? In this society, in this world, everybody knows one another. So the bar is only upon relatives. Okay. So when somebody knows you, it does not mean that your independence is under threat. Knowing somebody does not mean that your independence is under threat. Okay, guys. So answer is option C. Many of you have answered correctly. So this concept would also become to you clear when you will be reading chapter 10 on company audit, because it there you would be learning what are the disqualifications of an auditor. So what kind of services the auditor cannot provide to the company of which he is an auditor. Okay. So and what are the circumstances when an auditor becomes disqualified? So all these things would become more clear to you. Okay. Now 10th question is, which of the following is generally not included? Here is not included in engagement letter sent by auditor to his client. Now we had studied today that engagement letter is sent by the auditor to client. There were 4 or 5 things which are written in engagement letter. Now which of the following is not one of the things? Question number 10. Yes, Himanshu Gupta, related party does not include friend. In this society, everyone, there is no absolute definition of friend. How you can define a friend? If I meet somebody for half an hour, he becomes my friend. So would it make me disqualified? How it is possible? Which of the following is not generally included in engagement letter sent by auditor to his client? Which of the following is generally not included in the engagement letter sent by auditor to his client? Question number 10. Yes, many of you have answered correctly. Answer is B. But some of you are also writing scope of audit. Guys, you have to understand, scope of audit is the very first point written in the engagement letter. The auditor expressly states that in the engagement letter, he states that what is the objective and scope of audit. That his objective and scope is to express an opinion on the financial statements. And the engagement letter also states responsibilities of auditor and responsibilities of management. But what kind of procedures auditor would perform, why he would write it in the engagement letter, and why should he tell it to the client, what kind of audit procedures he would be performing. Okay, so option D is incorrect. So guys, there is still some time left for doing a case study, a little case study. Are you ready for case study based questions? Are you ready to spare few more minutes, guys? Yes, so we will do case study based questions. Yes. Now here it is a case study given to you, and below that there are 5 MCQs. Now study the first para. Now this is a firm name, a firm of CA consisting of 5 partners. Okay, 5 partners having staff strength of 25. 5 पार्टनर हैं, 25 उनका स्टाफ है. At Aligarh are offered audit engagement of so and so company for a period of 5 years. So they have been appointed auditors of the company for a period of 5 years. Offered. They are not appointed, they are offered. Still it is in offer stage. The client has offered them कि भैया आप हमारा audit करो 5 साल के लिए. The said company is having registered office at this place Baddi in state of Himachal. It means they are having factory at Himachal and they are in the business of developing some life-saving vaccine. Okay, so the promoters and key managerial person of the company also belong to Aligarh. And one of key managerial person is known to the father of one of the partners of CA firm. So the question states that audit firm, proposed audit firm is at Aligarh. The company is also based at Aligarh. It has a plant in Himachal Pradesh. So company is engaged in manufacturing of a vaccine. So the promoters of the company, the KMP, key managerial persons of the company also belong to Aligarh, and one of the partners of the firm is known to father of one of the key managerial person is known to father of the, is known to, he knows him to one of the partners. There are 5 partners, so one of the key managerial person is known to father. That means the father of the one of the partner knows one of the key managerial person. So tell, in you have understood the case scenario, guys. You have understood the case scenario. Should I move further? Should I scroll the screen? You have understood the case scenario. Should I scroll the screen for questions? Please let me know, guys. Yes. Now, question number 1 is, in the context of SQC1, it means Standard of Quality Control 1, which of the following information is not to be considered by CA firm before taking a decision regarding acceptance of engagement? Now you can understand that this client is new to the audit firm. So which of the following is not to be considered by the CA firm? Out of these 4 options, 3 options are to be considered and 1 option is not to be considered by the firm before taking a decision whether he should accept the engagement or not. So which is the correct option? Question number 1. Yes. Question number 1. Yes. Question number 1, guys. What should be the answer? Which of the following is not a factor for taking a decision regarding acceptance of the engagement? Whether he should consider business reputation, reason for proposed appointment and non-reappointment of previous audit firm, history of litigation in matters of taxation, nature of company's operation and its line of activity. Yes. Now, guys, business reputation they have to definitely consider whether these person are persons of integrity or not, and why the firm is appointing him and non-reappointment of previous firm. This is also to be considered by him. We had already discussed that in case of a company, the auditor has to communicate with the previous auditor. So this very situation requires him to consider why he is being appointed and what is the reason of non-reappointment of other person. Okay. And third is nature of company's business. Definitely he would consider क्या काम करते हैं, अगर उनको उस लाइन की समझ नहीं है, कभी उनको एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, then how, if they have got no experience in manufacturing activity, then how they will conduct audit? But history of litigation in matters of taxation, उस फर्म के काफी केस चल रहे हैं इनकम टैक्स में, अपील में है, कंपनी गई हुई है, इट इज ए लीगल मैटर, इट इज ए लीगल इशू, उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? असेसमेंट हुई, इनकम टैक्स में डिमांड निकली, कंपनी अपील में चली गई, देन हाउ इट इज रिलेटेड टू द appointment of auditor, to the decision of his appointment. It does not throw the promoters in bad light. They might have a difference of opinion with the authorities, and they have gone to the higher authorities or in the court of law. Legally, it is right available to them. So this is not a decision. So option C is correct. So few of you have written option C, but many are writing option B, option D, option A also. whereas we had discussed that option A, that in context of a new engagement, reputation of promoters has to be definitely considered by the auditor. It is a must that he is not doing audit of persons who are unscrupulous persons who are behind the show, who are behind the company. Okay, so option C is the correct answer. Now question number 2. Which of the following statement is likely to be most appropriate and complete regarding compliance of ethical requirements by the firm accepting the engagement? Now the firm wants to ensure, the audit firm wants to ensure that the firm is complying with all the ethical requirements. Okay. So which of the following statements is correct or most appropriate? So read option A, then I would scroll to B, C, and D. First read option A. Okay, you have read option A. Now I am scrolling to B, C, and D. Yes, B, C, and D. Now consider which of the statements is most appropriate. Which of the statements is most appropriate? Question number 2. Which of the statement is most appropriate? Should I again scroll back? Now this is option A. One of the KMPs is known to father of one of partners, hence independence of firm would compromised. Is it correct? एक जानता है पार्टनर के फादर जानते हैं एक केएमपी को, एक की मैनेजरियल पर्सन को, तो इससे इंडिपेंडेंस कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो जाएगी। अब दूसरा है प्रमोटर्स और ऑडिट फर्म एक ही शहर में है, तो इससे इंडिपेंडेंस कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो जाएगी, रिफ्यूज एंगेजमेंट। या वन ऑफ द केएमपीज इज नोन टू फादर and it does not all affect independence, hence engagement offer can be accepted. And D is that one of KMPs is known to father of one of partners and they belong to same city, does not affect independence, hence engagement can be affected. So what should be the answer? What should be the answer? Yes guys, only one, Himanshu Gupta and few others also now. Yes, D. Many of you have answered correctly. Well done guys. D is the correct answer. Say if the one KMP is known to father of one of partner, it does not affect his independence. And audit firm and registered office of the company are in the same city, it does not affect their independence. An auditor based at Delhi he can conduct the audit of that company. How it affects the independence? Okay, so the option is D. Okay, so question number 3 is, in case audit firm decides to accept audit engagement, which of the following statements is most appropriate as regards composition of engagement team? So कि अगर वो फर्म जो है ऑडिट फर्म उस एंगेजमेंट को एक्सेप्ट कर लेती है, तो engagement team, it means the team that would be conducting engagement, the team that would be conducting audit is known as engagement team. Okay, so what should be its composition? तो 4 ऑप्शन है हमारे पास. The engagement team can consist of partner and article clerks undergoing practical training in the firm. One is engagement partner and article clerks. These can be in engagement team. Second is engagement team can consist of partner, article clerks, and other professional staff of the firm. Third is the engagement team can consist of partner, article clerks, experts contracted by the firm in connection with the engagement. And these engagement team can consist of partner, article clerks, professional staff, and experts contracted by the firm in connection with the engagement. Which of the option is correct? Question number 2. Question number 3, sorry. Which of the options is correct? Question number 3. So I am scrolling it again, guys. First option is engagement team should consist of partner plus articles only. Second is partner plus articles plus other professional staff of the firm. Third is partner plus article clerks plus experts contracted by the firm. And fourth is partner plus article clerks plus professional staff plus experts contracted by the firm. What is the correct answer? Question number 3. Yes. This many of you have answered it correctly. Answer is option D. The engagement team, look, the audit firm, the partner would definitely be there because he is the person responsible for conducting audit. Article clerks are his staff, and there can be other professional staff in the firm also. Besides, the audit firm can also avail the services of experts in the areas which require expert knowledge. So option D is correct. Okay. So option D is correct. Yes, many of you have answered correctly. Himanshu, Jaspreet, and others. Now fourth. In accordance with requirements of SQC1, which of the following is not an element? The word is not an element. Is not an element. Is not an element for audit firm's procedures regarding system of quality control. Look, when the auditor carries out his engagement, then he has to ensure that audit work is carried out qualitatively. Therefore, he has to ensure many things. So which of the following is not an element? One is leadership responsibility for quality within the firm, that somebody has to take a responsibility as a leader for ensuring quality in the audit. Okay. Second is monetary resources. Third is performance of engagement, and D is monitoring. So again, I am showing to you the question कि क्वालिटी कंट्रोल का कौन सा एलिमेंट नहीं है. लीडरशिप रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ए, monetary resources, performance of engagement, and monitoring. Question number 4. Yes, question number 4, guys. Few mails, Bharat and others. Answer to this is B, monetary resources. Leadership, definitely he has to assume performance of engagement, monitoring. These are all elements of quality control, but it is not dependent upon money. Monetary resources. Okay, quality has to be ensured by performing the work diligently. Okay. Fifth. Now, this is also part of SQC1. I have not told you it expressly, but it is there in your module in correct, incorrect type of questions at the end of the chapter. So, assume that firm has accepted audit engagement. Which of the following statement is true regarding engagement documentation? Assume that firm has accepted the engagement. तो engagement documentation firm को कितने साल के लिए अपने पास रखना पड़ेगा? How long period? For how long period? Answer is yes. I am getting answers of everybody. Handvi, do not worry if I am pronouncing your name correctly. It is to be retained for no less than 7 years from the date of the audit report. Answer is option B. It has to be retained by the audit firm for a period for no less than 7 years. This you have to remember, guys. This question has come in the exams also. This question has come earlier in the exams also. It has to be retained for no less than 7 years from the date of audit report. Question number 5, answer is B. Okay. Is that clear to you guys? Is the answer clear to you guys? So guys, I presume that you have got an overview of this chapter, because this chapter forms the basic, it forms the basis of your further study, further understanding in this subject of auditing. So therefore it is very important for you to understand this chapter clearly, understand the basic nature of auditing, what the auditor is supposed to do, what falls within his scope, or what doesn't fall within his scope, what is the meaning of standards on auditing, what are different type of standards, what is the concept of independence, professional skepticism, and limitations on the scope of audit. All these things have to be remembered. Your work, again I am stating, your work doesn't stop here just by watching the lecture. You have to absorb all the concepts, okay? Because when we progress further into the syllabus, if you are not clear about the fundamental things which are being taught to you in first very chapter, you would get confused. Okay guys, so it's over for today. Hope you have enjoyed the lecture, and you have also understood few questions and case study, and it should have been helpful to you. Okay guys, do give your feedback. Thanks a lot. Good night. Okay guys, thank you.